nostalgia, memories, growing up in Central Florida in the 1990s. What a bunch of sappy crap. It's the Sappy Crap Podcast, starring Steve Bauman and Jarman Day. Welcome to the Sappy Crap Podcast, where the names are changed, but the stories are real. I'm Jarman.
And I'm Steve. That's right. The stories are real, or at least how our brains have chosen to keep them. We're not saying that what we're about to talk about is the truth. It's been so long since these events that at this point, it's all just stories.
Who knows? We're here to tell stories that only two longtime best friends can. So what are we talking about
this week?
We both said that.
Damn.
That was good.
Let's see if we can say the what we're talking about at the same time. Video games.
Video games. We're talking about video games, folks, and we're going to leave that all in because this is real and raw,
Beautiful.
man.
Doing it live. Yeah, so we're going to talk about video games, not necessarily like our favorite video games or anything, but the video games that we have memories formed around.
Yeah, and maybe down the line we'll think of like a more specific topic about this, but this is kind of a vague impression of our nostalgia of video games and what that meant to us.
This is like when you take Silly Putty and put it on the cartoon page, and then while you're pulling it off, you only get half of Garfield's face, and then it stretches out real bad while you're running to show your dad.
That's like an example of all my memories, basically, and how they
this is it.
come in my mind.
The half-formed putty stretch Garfield.
Pretty much. And so I think where I want to start off was some of my earliest memories of video games would be probably around, gotta be 5-6 years old. We got an NES, a Nintendo Entertainment System, at our house, and it changed everything for me. It was mostly the original Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. That's what we had, the disc the cartridge that had both together in one. So obviously NES had been out since I think 87, 86 when I was born.
Maybe something like that.
So at this point it had been out for years, but systems didn't come out every couple of years like they do now. But I played a bunch of that, and my other favorite back in that day was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. It's like basically the arcade version, but me and my sister would play on that all the time. And then, Mario 3 came along. We would play 1-player and 2-player, and it was amazing. So that's when it all started, man. The addiction.
Yeah, my brother had an NES and a television up in his bedroom, and I wasn't allowed up there without him. So most of my early is like supervised video game play with my brother. But then when I was 5 or maybe 6, he went off to a private, like a boarding school.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think he was allowed to take it. And so I got to keep his NES.
Yes.
And that was like when I finally got to hit buttons and screw up a lot and then play the same 3 games because the other ones were just too hard.
Oh yeah. Games are super hard back then too. And I always was jealous of everyone else who had a Super NES. I never got one of those. I made the jump from there to Sega Genesis. So that just never happened for me for a long time.
I never got the SNES either. I think I jumped from NES, which was my brother's, to the N64. I think the N64 was my first.
Oh, that's a big jump.
Like new console. It was huge.
Yeah.
Because I remember asking for an SNES for years. And every year it was either like I didn't get it from Santa, or I remember one year Santa talked about how like I should feel lucky that I had an NES and there were kids that didn't have video. Like I remember this. My parents deny this shit up and down, but why would I make that up? I remember it. I was holding the letter in my hand.
You're lame, Santa. He wrote you a letter about that?
Yeah, I like left it with my cookies and the shit. Like, thanks for the cookies, Steven.
Be grateful for what you have, you bitch.
Enjoyed the cake. Get a lump of coal.
Don't be a whiny bitch and enjoy what you got.
Mary, shut up.
Mary, shut up. Oh man, I remember I was so jealous going over to my friend's house when I was a kid who had the SNES, and she had Mario Paint. And
that thing was crazy.
Mario Paint had a little side game where you'd smack flies, and it was like I loved it like nothing else in the world, and I don't know why, but that was all my whole world.
Just something connected with you.
It did. Smacking flies. I don't like bugs, so that works out well.
So let's talk about some memories surrounding video games.
Absolutely.
So I basically listed it by video game.
Oh, right. I kind of did the same thing, so we'll be on the same page.
We'll have some overlap, I'm sure. And my first story is about Age of Empires 2.
Oh, that's on my list, man. Oh, man. What a game.
Let's get the Age of Empires 2 stories out there. So Age of Empires 2 is a real-time strategy, top-down, where you create and control a civilization by making builders build things and making warriors and sending them to attack people and stuff.
Like the original Warcraft, but it was around the same time.
Warcraft 2. And I'm willing to say that I was never the best at it. But we had these buddies, Jesse and Greg, and any video game we played, and you're going to hear about more of this later, any video game we played, they were just better than us.
It was frustrating.
Like Jarman and I don't want to say that Jarman sucked, but we sucked together. I think it's probably the better way to put this. We sucked as a duo.
And we were always middling, like we could do decent, but they were out of the park. I don't understand.
Yeah, we weren't inept, but they were just great at every video game they picked up.
Yeah.
So we get into Age of Empires 2, which they are into, and not only do they have been playing longer than us, but they're just better. They just are. And I remember we used to do team things a lot because that's how you deal with it when two people suck. And so like one of us would be on Greg's team, the other one would be on Jesse's team. And I remember at one point Greg got sick of this. So we did a big like 4-man free for all.
Yeah.
So we did it on Black Forest.
Mm-hmm. It's a map that has tons and tons of trees and it blocks you in. So you have a chance to kind of turtle in for a long time.
And like natural walls and tunneling and that kind of stuff. And not only that, then they would set the size of the map to this huge size. So we would all have these like crazy distances between us and like insane amount of resources. So we get into it and Greg immediately kills you. Like in the first 25 or 30 minutes, you are destroyed. He rushes you. You are dead. He takes your early gold mines and uses it as a foothold to then come and kill me. So he then comes after me. I get almost demolished. I make it out with like 3 peasants. And Jesse is nice enough to let me come and hide in his land. And him and I make an agreement that I can build like a settlement as long as I give him resources. So I do this because I'm just happy to be there and I want to see Greg lose. I think those are probably the 2 driving factors in that.
Makes sense. That tracks.
Mostly the Greg losing part. So I set up a nice little town and I start giving Jesse like resources and I end up gathering crazy amounts of resources. And then Greg and Jesse fight and it's very close, but Greg comes out on top and starts beating Jesse. So I in turn start getting the crap kicked out of me again. I make it out with 2 peasants this time. So with Fog of War on though, and Black Forest, this specifically large, very cavernous thing, I go and hide. And I'm not dead. Like I'm not wiped out of the game until all of my peasants are gone.
It's attrition.
Yep. So I go and I have all of these resources that I was going to give to Jesse that I just now have. So I start building walls and I build myself just into this whole corner of the map. So at this point, Greg realizes he didn't get me and he starts searching. So I run out of stone. And so I start building wood walls. So I build probably 10 to 15 layers of stone wall and probably another 15 to 20 layers of wood wall.
Palisade walls.
Just put myself into this corner with palisade walls. Greg finds me. He loads in trebuchets, but because of where I put myself, he can only get a few in at a time. So it's really slow. At this point, it's been like an hour and 20 minutes since he destroyed my village. And so he's building trebuchets, and then he realizes. So what he didn't realize is that I had more walls. So then he realizes I've got palisade walls, and I remember him turning and going, "You know what? Fuck it." And he hit a few buttons, and it said that he surrendered and that I had won.
That's how you do it.
That was the one time I beat Greg.
You just hold out longer. You can win.
I am more stubborn and I have more to lose.
I have all the free time in the world. That's amazing. And actually, they just have released not too long ago, a couple years ago, Age of Empires 2 remastered.
Like a definitive edition.
Yeah, you can play it on widescreen now and everything, and they increase the graphics. And it looks kind of the same, but it's nice being able to play on widescreen, and it's compatible with modern systems. And Patrick and I, friend of the podcast, we played a few games on it, and we did Black Forest, and we do the whole no rush thing where we make it a gentleman's agreement.
You have like an hour.
Yeah, you have an hour to build up your towns and your forces before you actually attack each other, and we played together against computer and stuff. It's a lot of fun to come back to occasionally, just get those memories flowing.
Very nice.
But yeah, it's a great game. Something along the same lines, Heroes of Might and Magic. Do you remember that game?
Oh yeah, yes,
so
I do.
People out there might remember it was an old game, probably 90s and early 2000s maybe, but it was turn based.
They still make it in some form.
Yeah.
Now.
And it's turn based. So basically, we'd have, I don't know how many you were there for, but we'd have sleepovers. Where
I remember a few of them.
It would all night long. Some of us would be playing other video games while someone would go to the computer and take their turn. Because you take a while to take your turn, build up your town, and they push the button, and it'd be the next person's turn, and they go to the same computer and take their turn.
Falling asleep, and so they'd like fall asleep for 3 minutes, and then you go over and like slap them awake, get them up to go take their turn.
Exactly.
They go take their turn, then go back and lay down.
All fueled by Mountain Dew and Doritos.
Oh yeah,
it's an amazing game. Oh my gosh, yeah.
No, I remember one such that Greg. I think it was Greg, Jesse, you, and me. Now that I'm thinking about it. And I remember we played, and your computer got so angry and so loud. And then at like 4:30 in the morning, it just froze and crapped on the game that we had. And I remember all of us were so mad and defeated because we were so tired and we'd come so far.
We wanted it to work out. And it was
so mad.
All running on like a Gateway or Hewlett Packard computer. It was terrible.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, and those guys were so good at games that at one point when we were finally like in high school, we never drank or did anything bad like that. But we had one night of drinking. I think it was towards the end of high school, and we were going to try wine coolers or something. And the whole goal, though, was we weren't really going to drink. We were just going to try to get Jesse to drink so that he would lose at video games. And even when he'd never really drank before, he was intoxicated, he still beat all of us. We were so angry. I can tell you
that was post prom.
Oh, is that what that was? Okay.
Because you and I only drank 2 times in high school. And one was post homecoming and one was post prom. And the one post homecoming, Jesse was our DD.
Okay.
So I know it wasn't then.
Gotcha. I barely remember those occasions, not because I was drinking, but just because my memory's terrible.
Because I remember we were drinking. So this is just off topic, but let's talk about it. Why not? We're remembering things. So this kid, we'll call him Kiki. Kiki had this cousin who was older and was cool. She was like 22 or 23. And I remember he said that she had agreed to get us booze. Right. Because we had all kind of decided to drink because none of us were really drinkers or partiers.
We never even
we were
tried.
Kind of collectively a very tame crowd. And so we got all this money together. I remember us just handing Kiki money and say, look, here it is, and give him like $60. And I remember he took it and he's like, what do you want? I remember we asked for like vodka and Goldschlager. And I remember Kiki pulled up and he's like, yeah, quick, get him in. We don't want Jarman's mom to see. So we like snuck a cooler in and like hid it in the game room for afterwards. This is the children we are. We hid it in the game. And we open it up and it's nothing but Smirnoff Ice and Mike's Hard Lemonades. And we're like, dude, Kiki, what the hell is this? We gave money for blank and blank. Didn't you hear? And he's like, she said that we would kill ourselves. And she said that this was fine. And
she was right. She was very right.
Right. I think that night I had 6 Smirnoff Ices. like maybe 3 or 4 regular beers worth of alcohol.
Right.
Maybe. And Jesse was the DD. And at like midnight, we decided we're going to go to McDonald's. And Jesse, Karen, I'm so sorry for what I'm about to tell. So Jesse's like, all right, you and Dylan get in the back. Does anyone have to go to the bathroom? We go. And I'm like, no, I'm good. So we walk 15 feet out. We're outside and I have to go to the bathroom because I never drank before. I didn't realize how often I was going to have to pee. So I end up peeing in your front bushes on the side.
Oh, no.
I'll just admit it now in front of Karen and God. This happened. I'm sorry, Karen.
It's now out to the world.
It was my first time drinking anything. I apologize.
Hey, that was the first time I remember ever feeling the feeling of tipsiness. And I'm like, whoa, it feels strange when I walk. It's strange.
Yeah, but I don't think any of us got what I would classify as drunk.
No, and that's why Kiki's cousin was very smart.
Yes, Kiki's. So all these years later, I don't know who she is, but wherever you are, thank you, Kiki's cousin, for saving us from killing ourselves.
I think we would have taken one sip of vodka at that, and we'd never had it before, and be like, no, we're just not doing this.
God, how do people drink this?
Yeah.
All right, so off-topic story.
Yeah, off-topic. But in that same game room, we had a lot of nights playing games like GoldenEye, Streets of Rage 2, which was a Sega Genesis game that we would just play over and over again.
And you had the game Genie, so we would put in the code, so we had 99 lives, and so we would just play just with reckless abandon.
And we put on the hardest mode, is insane mode, and put unlimited lives, basically.
It would just get the crap kicked out of us, but just hit back and be not good.
And speaking of Game Genie, there was one stupid thing I remember doing. I can't remember if it was with you or not, but I think it was. We got Cruisin' USA on N64.
Cruisin'
USA.
Yes, this is me. I can tell you the story right now, and the answer is yes. And it was a Game Shark.
Game Shark at that point, no longer Game Genie. And then so we put it on to where you win the races no matter what. But the idea was we wanted to unlock all the cars. So you couldn't do that with the Game Shark. You had to actually win the races. But you could auto win with the cheat code for Game Shark. So what we did was we taped down the trigger button on the N64 controller, so that the car would just go and win every race, and it would just go through all the races. The next race would just start right after the last one, and so that was how we gamed the system so they could unlock all the cars without actually trying.
Well, what I remember, and this was over the course of a weekend, because you did that, and we built it all up, but you didn't have like a save card yet.
Oh,
so we couldn't turn off the N64.
That too, yes.
And we left the N64 on for like 2 days while we came in and tried to get the like elite cop car, because that was the fastest car.
That's right.
The elite cop car.
Cruisin' USA.
Cruisin' USA.
That was a lot of fun, though.
Yeah, that was like a weekend.
I do remember. I specifically remember going to watch a movie, like going to the theater, while we left that tape down on the controller, so it would just keep winning races.
Oh, yeah. Like I might have gone to church with you, actually. That might have been like a Saturday to Sunday kind of thing early in our friendship.
That's really funny.
Yeah. So I've got a Streets of Rage 2 story.
Oh,
not
please.
really about video games, but it'll always be in my memory. So we're having, I believe, our Halloween party at your house.
That's right. People, when we had Halloween parties every year, Steve and I would throw one, and they were epic.
I think this was 10th. I think this was 10th grade. Epic Halloween party at your house. So your parents made it very clear they did not want anyone inside. Like I remember this.
Outdoor party only.
Outdoor party only. That you had like a side entrance, so like nobody had to come in through the house. The only people went inside was for bathroom. That was it.
Right.
And I remember I was dating this girl that we'll call Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
And we were getting to like necking in a corner, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. So I found that like back path back to the game room. From your backyard back to the game room. And I sneak in there, and I think I'm real clever. And I get in there, and there's this kid, Brad, and his girlfriend already going at it in there. And so I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I remember his girlfriend looking at me and going, oh, we can move to the floor. And they hopped off the couch and went to the floor behind the couch, like by the game chair.
What?
By your chair.
I hope I knew these
they're
people.
Making out down there. You do.
Okay.
And I'm on the couch and we're like getting serious, and I don't know, like I'm like, we're making out real hard. I'm like, yeah, what's the next step? And so I grab her boob.
Oh.
And so the first boob I ever grabbed was on the couch in your game room at this Halloween party, this girl Chelsea. And I'm like kind of maneuvering it, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Sorry, moms.
No. I think it's important to hear these things.
That's important.
So then So mind you, during all this, Streets of Rage 2 is on the television on pause.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, we hear the door try, and I hear your mom, why is this locked? And I go, oh, no.
Oh, God.
So I flip on the light. Brad vaults over the couch, lands with like the controller in his hands and hits start. And I unlock and I go, oh, I'm so sorry, Karen. And we're just playing video games. Like this happened in a second.
That's impressive.
So it was incredible. Like I remember him just being woof, like the Energizer Bunny up and over. And suddenly we were playing. And your mom knew exactly what was going on.
She's a smart lady.
We were so fast that I think she gave us benefit of the doubt.
She's like, maybe I could be wrong, but
like
they
it wasn't
probably
like
were.
it wasn't like 10 seconds like hold on while she heard people shuffling clothes or anything. It was like the next moment I unlocked the door and apologized.
Well, that's very nice of you.
But moments before, I had grabbed my first boob.
What a magical moment.
To Streets of Rage 2. But
of course, it was just sitting there on pause. Oh, so on that same note of my mom and our house and video games. We have Jesse involved in this story.
Oh, yeah.
So my mom comes home one day to find Jesse picking up our living room television and taking it out of the house.
Right.
And she still tells this story to friends of the family and family members and stuff because we had Halo parties like a lot of weekends. We'd have Halo parties at someone's house.
Senior year.
Yeah.
It was almost every weekend.
So we'd have to bring the TVs to someone's house to like hook up the LAN party, Halo party. It was awesome.
Yeah. Someone brought a TV. If you didn't TV, you had to bring an Xbox or a control. Like everyone brought something.
And one or two things happened. Either Jesse was confused about which television I was telling him to get, or I thought my parents were out of town and that we could use that TV. I can't remember which.
You told the story that you at least maintained at that moment was that you had told him to take the one out of your room, but he was unhooking the one like in your living room,
right?
Like your main television.
And so she comes in the house as he's taking the television out of her house. And I don't think she knew him very well at the time. At least she'd met him a couple of times, but she's like, what are you doing? Because I wasn't even at the house. He came around the back that we always left open and he just came in the house, was unhooking the television.
Well, so here's the thing though. You had a habit of telling us that we could do things and then like not communicating with your mom.
Exactly. Because at
one time I needed to borrow the camera for a school project or something. And I came in your house at like 6:30 in the morning or something.
Oh my goodness.
I needed it that day for a project or something. And I remember your mom coming out, be like, Steven, what are you doing? I was like, I'm borrowing the camera. And she's like, does Jarman know? I'm like, yeah, he didn't. He was supposed to tell you. I'm sorry, Karen. Oh, okay. So in Jesse's defense, there's a chance you didn't tell your mom.
Oh, it's possible. And also we had a Kiki one time that we talked about earlier.
Kiki.
He was over because people would just hang out at my house because it was right next to the high school. And they would just go
literally 4 houses from the high school, maybe 5.
And so he was just waiting there, I think, until I got out from school. And so he comes into the game room, which is in our back of our house. And my mom was doing laundry, which is in the kind of the before the game room in the kind of garage area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and she's in her bra because she didn't think anyone was coming home in a long time. And she's about to do laundry. And he walks in and sees my mom in her bra. And he's like, I'm so sorry. And he runs away. So poor
that was
Kiki.
The right response, Kiki.
And he was, traumatized, and she was, really pissed off. And it was I need to stop doing that. It was not a good choice.
Let's talk a little bit more about some Halo LAN moments.
Oh man, there was just so many good Halo parties.
So this story, I'm not exaggerating. Senior year, it was probably 3 weekends a month.
Yeah, we did a lot of it.
We were at someone's house. Someone's parents were out. Someone's parents said it was fine. More often than not, it was Jesse's house.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember hosting a few times. I remember you hosting a few times.
Well, Jesse's parents would get a hotel and like let us have their house for a night. It was awesome. Like
or his dad had business because he was in marketing, maybe, and then so they would like go to another city, for a weekend.
It was
or
awesome.
Something. And so this first story, I'm just going to call the lacrosse country feud.
All right.
So this one was at Jesse's, and you and I always had a spot. We weren't the best, but because we were like there, and I think I had an Xbox, and we used your like we had a spot because we brought stuff,
and
it was great. But then suddenly there's this big talk at school. The cross country kids say they're the best Halo players, and the cross kids fire back. Oh no, they're the best Halo players. So on a Saturday, in the middle of this LAN, suddenly everyone who isn't top tier has to stop playing, and 8 meatheads from the lacrosse team.
Oh man, I remember that.
Shuffle in to settle this feud. That those of us, we just don't. We're there for a LAN. That's what we're there for.
Mm-hmm.
So they do like a best of 3. I think they do an oddball and a team death match and a capture the flag. And after the 2 first shorter games, the oddball and the death match, it's 1-1, and they're going in the capture the flag, and the capture the flag goes on forever. In a way that only original Halo capture the flag can go on forever.
I love that it went so long.
Oh my God.
When I was playing.
We got other stories there too. And so I'm just kind of aimlessly walking around. It's starting to get dark outside and dark in the house. So I'm in the hallway between the two major rooms where these things are happening. And I flip a switch thinking it's going to turn on a light. Nothing turns on. So I flip it once first. I go, all right. And then within a second, there's just this outburst from both rooms simultaneously. Screaming, cursing. Oh, what the hell? Just angry high school boy angst. And in that moment, I realized that I had hit the switch that was controlling whatever socket the router was on.
Oh my God.
So I knew that if I fessed up to this, that even if I said it was an accident, people would say it wasn't. They would say I did it to help Jesse and the gang. And this would continue. So instead I say nothing. I get the hell out of there.
Of course. I wouldn't either.
They're upset, but the lacrosse guys decide it's not worth it. And they leave. Yeah. And we get to go back. We collectively get to go back to this LAN party that I silently saved for the worst players.
That's amazing.
By accident. By complete accident, I saved maybe another hour of us having to sit and watch.
And we actually got to play, finally. The bad kids.
Yes, we got to actually. The lacrosse country feud.
Oh, man. But those were great nights. We had just random people coming over. We had their mom, Jesse's mom, made brownies for us all the time. And
oh, yeah. She made blondies.
Blondies.
That was the key. Oh, my God.
That's right.
So good.
It was just good times. And I remember one point in college, actually, the kind of the end of the life of LAN parties in Halo. I had apartment downstairs from my good buddy. He lived upstairs in this apartment building. So we ran a LAN cable down from his window into my apartment so we could LAN Halo together from two apartments. Nice. It was wonderful.
The dorms at my college had literally the year before gone through an upgrade so that the entire building was basically one big router.
Oh.
And so not only could you play with other people in the building over this like local network, but you people could share their whole iTunes libraries back when you could do that.
Oh, I remember those days, the T3
and so, like,
or whatever.
You would hook into the network and have access to like 30 people's libraries.
Those are amazing.
Just in the building.
Before they would protect those things.
Oh, man. So young.
Oh, man. So young and naive.
One time hosting a LAN at my place. And I had like all of our normal kind of lower shtick guys there, like the people I liked playing with. And then I remember I asked Jesse to invite a few of the better guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like the cross country guy. I remember we had one guy who came who like had won tournaments.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff. I remember his gamer handle was Whippazix. To this day, Whippazix. So we were never top tier, as I mentioned. But because of that, we got paired with like these better guys. So I remember I got paired with Danny, the really good guy, a lot because I was kind of mid to low.
Right.
And so we did a big team deathmatch, and it was 250, and we lost. I remember him storming in and kind of like berating you and me
for not being good enough.
Where was my team on that one? And I was real pissed. So we go into this next round, and for whatever reason, I am on. I remember it was Beaver Creek or Battle Creek, whichever one they called it in that version.
Right, the different names.
Yeah. And I was on. I was destroying. I was killing people I had no right to be killing. And at the end, we did lose 50-49, but I had 26 kills. Was the top in the game and the top on my team. And I remember smugly walking into the room with Danny and looking at him and going, man, where's my team on that
one? Which you'll never be able to say to him ever again.
Never. It was the one time. The one time.
Wow. Yeah, that's memorable, those situations. And I feel like I'm still that way now with playing Overwatch, where there's some nights my mind just clicks, everything works out. I'm on the top of the team, getting gold medals left and right. And then the rest of the nights, I'm the same old Jarman.
Yeah, I mean, even now, good segue into Overwatch, which right now is really my only real game outlet other than like tabletop stuff.
Yeah, same here.
Where I play with a crew of guys from work, and somehow I got Jarman looped in.
For some nights of the week.
Jarman plays with us like once or twice a week, something like that.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to the point that there's just too many video games nowadays. Like
too many for me to care about, certainly.
Right, and there were just less games available back in the day. So like there was one game that was part of the zeitgeist, and you're either playing like the NBA games or like the shooter game, or there's like three big ones that were going on at one time. Now there's like a billion games available.
Yeah.
It's kind of overwhelming, and I'm already two consoles behind as far as games I'm missing that I haven't played. And
even in the thread that we're in with that group that plays Overwatch, there's so many like, oh, check this game out. Oh man, they just announced this, and I don't care about any of it.
It's like, how are you going to find the time to play any of them? I don't even have kids yet, and I don't know when they'd have the time to do those things.
My condition is always, I will play whatever game people are playing.
Yeah, make it a social activity.
My bigger thing is that I want to play with people and coordinate and get more out of the game. Whatever game it is, I don't care, but I want to do that.
Absolutely. I'd be remiss, though. I have to jump back before we get towards the end, because one of the stories I remember so much of video games is us playing Myst, the Myst series. And so absolutely. If anyone's familiar with Myst, you probably are, because it was really popular in the 90s and 2000s. Myst, Riven, all those things.
And Exile were the three that you and I played together.
Yes. And they were just these point and click puzzle games, but they were beautiful for their time. Like the graphics were just so pretty, but you weren't you weren't moving in real time, but you would click and move and figure puzzles out and solve mysteries. And at the time, we had a kid living with us, not really living with us, but he'd stay with us at our school, because he would use our address to basically go to school at Winter Park High School, where we went to school. We educationally adopted him, basically. But he was this super, super smart kid. Now he's like basically a rocket scientist now. It's ridiculous. He's curing cancer and sending rockets to space all at the same time. We'll call him Donald. And so he would be doing his homework and stuff while we'd be playing Myst. But whenever we'd run into a problem, we'd be like, hey, Donald, can you look at this for us? And we were working on a puzzle for, a week or like hours and hours, and he'd go over there and solve it in about 5 minutes.
Yeah. So the one time specifically I remember this happening, it was Exile. You and I had played through Myst and Riven, and I'm talking 3 to 4 afternoons a week of 2 hour playtime for months. Mm-hmm. We did this the way that only like 2 obsessed adolescent boys can.
With lots of free time.
And we got to a point in Exile when we were at the end, and we had put all the pieces together. We were really close to the end. And there was this final puzzle where we had to like align these knobs. And you and I tried for like, you're right, like a week. We tried this puzzle, and we couldn't do it because we couldn't get the math right. Because I remember we found this chamber that had these different weights, and it allowed you to equate like, well, this weight equals 3 of these weights. And you needed to know that for like, and we couldn't get it. And sure enough, we asked Donald to come over, and we showed him what we had so far. And he's like, take me to the room where you saw that. And he's like, oh, you guys did this or that. And he just went back over to the controls and like turned dials. And that was it. Because we'd gotten some like very initial math incorrect.
And it's
but we weren't smart enough to identify that.
And he has no context. He hadn't been playing the rest of the game. Like he just jumps in.
He's doing like advanced AP chemistry homework behind us while we are wasting our adolescence.
And this guy came from China when he was probably, 10. And he learned perfect English within like a year and a half with no accent.
He had very, very little accent.
Yeah, he kind of spoke very robotically, but he had no accent whatsoever. And now he's doing like just crazy things in the scientific field and tech fields. It's just ridiculous. So as he should be, with that brain.
Oh, yeah. But I remember that Exile specifically, where we couldn't do it. We could not do it.
And those are also available in remastered editions. Not that they're paying us to say that.
And you can move through them and stuff. Isn't Brad Dourif in them?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they have live action cutscenes. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And speaking of Streets of Rage, they also have Streets of Rage 4, which just came out, which on Steam, and I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun if you're a fan of the old game. A lot of unlockables and fun content, and the original music.
Video game I've played a lot of, but it's sort of sad. And maybe this is the story I'm going to tell that I've played more than any other game, and that's World of Warcraft.
Oh yes,
which I spent
not mention
a decade basically playing, like a pretty consistent decade. A few 6-month breaks here or there, but pretty much. And the worst part is I look back and I'm like, I don't have any stories.
Oh, that is bad. That does stink.
Like I remember a few times back when you and I used to play together, but that's like way back in like Burning Crusade time frame, maybe.
Yeah, and that's the fun parts were when we got to play with our friends as a group and as a group effort kind of work together. I remember
a few guilds where I had camaraderie with people. And at one point, my college roommate and I were in the same guild. So I've got like a few things there. But after 10 years of gaming, like I don't have any memories.
Just grinding, killing rats for 3 hours to get a drop.
Yeah. So it was one of those funny realizations as we were doing this, that the game I've played the most by an incredible margin. I don't have anything.
Yeah. And that is a realization. That's weird. And like my buddy Andy from college, we'll call him Andy. He played so much World of Warcraft in college, it's probably around 2006-ish, that he was failing all of his classes. He got academic suspension. He had to go back home to Florida to go to a local college here and to get his grades back up. And then he was able to go back to Boston University where he went to school, because he would just not shower, not bathe, not eat. He wouldn't go to classes. He would just play World of Warcraft for, days on end. And it was just like, wow, it's an addiction. A lot of people get addicted to that game. And that's how it first started. Oh, yeah. And it's still around. It's crazy.
I played it all through college, and it was, I'd have rehearsal typically until, 8 or 9 at night. And then I would go and do homework till 10 or 11. And then I would play till 11, from 11 to 2.
Yeah.
Or 11 to 3, and then get a 4 or 5 hours of sleep and then get up and go to my morning classes.
Oof.
So I'd still get 3 or 4 hours of play in a day.
It's not sustainable.
While maintaining full schedule. Oh, yeah. Oh, I definitely did it, though.
You were young.
Yeah, I could burn the candle at both ends in a way that if I did now, I would die. I would literally die.
And that brings me to the future, I think, where I want to think about, I hope there is some time in my future where I can somehow play more games, because I miss video games. I miss single player video games. I love playing story games like Uncharted and Mass Effect. They're just beautiful, and so much thought and creative work went into them. And I just don't have the time.
Honestly, I thought that with this lockdown and all that I would fall more into video games and I would fall back into WoW. And what I'm finding is that I'm getting much, much more fulfillment out of my tabletop experiences.
Yeah, because once again, it's more social and interactive.
So I'm just transferring the time to something that appeals more to what I need out of a game.
And I've transferred a lot of my time to both that, tabletop games, and Netflix and Hulu and TV shows.
Well, plus you got someone to watch and play with now. Like, Anna's never been a video game person.
That's true. And for a while there, because my girlfriend's really into video games. She's a huge Fallout fan. And we even got the new Elder Scrolls Online. But we just don't have the time to play it now that school started up for her. And we had a friend of hers we play online with. So we had a kind of a group. But that's the fun part, is we have a group of people to play with. So that's why we still have our Overwatch group. And that's kind of helping things along. But we're old. We don't have time to play anymore. It's sad.
So, Jarman, the closing question.
Yes.
If you could live out one video game hero, go and live out the game, who would it be? What would it be?
Dang, that's a hard question. Well, a lot of them survive, so that's good. I think if I was to live out one character, I think Uncharted would probably be up there.
You get to win the game. Let me clarify. You get to win the game.
Yeah, I think Uncharted would be there because he's like basically a younger, hipper Indiana Jones. And he gets a lot of girls and he gets a lot of adventures and sees even some kind of magical stuff and survives to tell the tale. So, yeah, I go to Nathan Drake from Uncharted. How about you?
I'm going to go with like Mario, probably, because it's from an age of games where like everything was very simple. You went from point A to point B. You killed things that looked evil. You collected things that gave you cool power-ups and made you feel good. And like the bad guy was the bad guy. There was no moral ambiguity or, oh, what's his motivation? Or, oh, he stole this amulet because his grandfather failed 100 years ago. It doesn't matter. Koopa has the princess. You got to get her back. And then like, same thing as you said, you go, you get to get rich. You get to kill bad monsters. And then you get the girl at the end.
All with a sweet mustache.
All with a mustache that I'll never be able to grow. And some pretty sweet overalls.
That's true. You said that one outfit. You only need to worry about what you're wearing in the morning. That's it.
Right. Wake up, press start, get going.
Bring.
So I would say Mario. Probably Mario 3.
That's great. Yeah, Mario 3 was a good one.
You got to fly, warp whistles and stuff. That was real fun. 2
was terrible, but we won't go there.
Yes.
So that wraps up this episode of the Sappy Crap Podcast.
That's right. Join us next week when we're going to talk about more adolescent angst and a topic that we don't even know yet.
That's right, but you'll find out soon. So thanks for joining us on this delightful stumble down memory lane.
And don't forget, the good times weren't always good.
This podcast was brought to you by A Play on Nerds.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of the Sappy Crap Podcast.
It sure does. Yeah. So you took my line.
I don't care. I think we can try to wing this a little bit more.
I know. I'm just so out of practice with this one. Yeah, it does. So you should join us next time as we talk about the joys and torture of going to see movies on a date, because that's what's written on my script.
Okay, put a flag in, goddamn.
I already put a flag in.
Okay. All right, you lead whatever you want, and I'll just chime in.
Well, I think that wraps up this episode of the Sappy Crap Podcast.
That's right. Thank you for taking this terrible adolescent angsty stroll down memory lane.
You took my line again.
I only remember half of them.
Because yours is, remember, the good old days weren't always good at the end.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you say your thing again. Put a flag in.
All right. Putting a flag in.